My exhibit is called Blade and Brush. And that refers to my scratch board, which is done with a blade, and my oil paintings, which are done with a brush. And it opens on September 8th. The opening reception is from 5 to 7 p.m. and it will be here until October 6th. I've always done art. Actually doing what I considered fine art was when I painted a portrait of my sister using leftover paint by number paints. I had gotten kind of bored with paint by numbers, and so I took all my leftover paint by number paints and I painted a portrait of my baby sister at the time. So I was 11 or 12, she was 3 or 4, somewhere in that range. I pretty much will work with anything I can get my hands on. Oil painting, acrylic painting, watercolor painting, colored pencil, pen and ink, scratch board of course now, and gosh, I can't even probably think of 900 other things. If you walk through my house, I literally have art supplies in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the living room, in the bedroom, in the garage, and I love knowing that if I all of a sudden get an inclination to do something, I can go grab it. So I did not go to art school until I was 36. And I actually went to art school for computer animation. So the backstory there is that I was working several jobs, and one of my extra jobs was to teach hotel managers how to audit their auditors. And I was held up in an armed robbery. I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I did go to art school at age 36, studied computer animation and photography. It was a great experience. I graduated from Ringling College of Art and Design. In the scratchboard world, my biggest artistic influences are a lady named Diana Lee, who's a master scratchboard artist. She passed away a few years ago, but she was the very first person that I contacted when I got interested in scratchboard, and she was extremely generous with her knowledge and was just a great person to know, and her work is just phenomenal. And then currently there's a couple other masters, Lorna Hannett, who also does phenomenal work. Lori Dunn, who's another fabulous master scratchboard artist, and Kathy Sheeter. They're all the masters of the art. I've always loved the artwork of Peter Max. Big fan of Van Gogh, of course. I love Mary White, who's a watercolor artist, and first watercolor artist I ever saw an exhibition that she had watercolor paintings that were 8 feet tall, or 14 feet wide. It was just unbelievable, but just fabulous work. And then Karen Hollingsworth, I love her work too. So around 2014, I started working freelance again in order to help take care of my mother, who had at that time developed Alzheimer's disease. And I had the opportunity to join an art group. I kind of stepped away from doing a lot of fine art for many, many years. And so when I got the opportunity to join this group, I thought, I'm going to do it because I needed that outlet, And so being a member of that group, I was asked to participate in an exhibition that was matching a photographer with an artist. And the artist would do their interpretation of the photographer's photograph. So I met with this great photographer named Art Green, who had a beautiful picture of an owl. So we agreed that I would do my interpretation of his owl piece, and I had to try to figure out, what was I going to do with it. And I'm very much let the subject dictate the media to me. I was walking around the Dick Blick art store in Savannah, Georgia, going, just looking for inspiration, basically. And I happened to see the ampersand scratchboard display. And I thought, gosh, that would be a great media for doing an owl. So that's what I did. And it was the very first piece that sold in that show. But I hadn't done any art shows in probably 20, 25 years, And so I thought, well, yeah. How about that? So then I did another one, and I did 2 more in the following year. So I entered my pieces into the International Society of Scratchboard Artists annual exhibition. Both of my pieces were accepted into that show, and I was just absolutely shocked and just thrilled, and so I just kept on, and that's what you see today. I just keep going. The substrate is like a hardboard, like a masonite board or hardboard, and then there's a layer of clay, but the layer of clay is only about the thickness of a piece of paper. And then that's covered with black ink. And so it's really kind of an etching or it's a subtractive process. So you have to think in reverse, because instead of like when you're doing a pencil drawing, you're putting down more pencil to get darker. Here, you're taking away less. I draw with a scalpel blade probably 90% of the time. A lot of people don't like the flexibility of a scalpel blade, but it feels more organic to me. And then I also use a few other tools, like I'll use some tattoo needles or some miniature fiberglass brushes that I'll sometimes use if I want to soften an edge or make a fur look softer. For me, when I started Scratchboard, I work with a lot of data, precision, and doing different things, you know, for the different companies. So for me to at the end of the day, to sit down and work on Scratchboard, I can't think about anything else. My brain has to shut down and think about where I'm putting the next scratch, because you can't erase Scratchboard. So for me, it's a very Zen-like experience. And I think that the people that love it, that's the way they feel about it. If you have a very active mind that you just, you know, have a difficult time getting it to shut down, it's great for that, because you really, like I say, you really have to concentrate where you're putting every scratch and how deep it is, and you know. I love the challenge of it, trying to figure out, you know, like I wanted the angel to look like stone, so I did the stippling technique, and I wanted the firefighter diamond plate to look like diamond plate, so, you know, trying to get that texture and trying to figure out how to get all those textures is also kind of, you know, entertaining. If it's going to be a color piece, I'll scratch the initial layer, still try to maintain the values, and then I'll come back with a very diluted wash of color. And depending on what I'm using, sometimes I use Bombay ink, sometimes I use ampersand ink, sometimes I use watercolors, depending on the piece and what I'm trying to achieve. So in order to keep it, allow the scratches to show through, you can't just put down, you know, heavy duty color right away. Lay down a couple layers of color, build up your color slowly, and then you'll scratch back highlights. So it's kind of a constant working of ink scratch, ink scratch, ink scratch, ink scratch, ink scratch, and that goes on and on. The Fox, for instance, has probably 20 layers of inking and scratching. I define success as an artist when people connect with my artwork. The firefighter piece, the proceeds from that piece, from the prints that I sell from that piece, I donate to a firefighter support team. And one of the prints went to a firefighter who was actually at the towers on the day of the attack. And he sent me just a really great letter about how much that piece meant to him. So that when people make that connection to my artwork, that's really important to me, and that's when I feel successful as an artist. And I think the other time that I really feel successful as an artist is when I look back and I can see the improvement in my work. My dream project is to be an artist in residence at the national parks. So I made it to the finals as an artist in residence for the Great Smoky Mountains National Park a few years back, but I would love to be artist in residence at Yellowstone Glacier, Grand Tetons, Denali. That's really kind of my retirement plan to do that, and to have my work included in their permanent collections. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing a demonstration of Scratchboard during the exhibit. I've had a lot of organizations ask me about teaching workshops, so this would be a great time to come and find out if you love it or hate it. I'm actually going to have some handouts, some kits, the little Scratchboard kits. Ampersand was nice enough to provide me with sample boards, and so I'll be giving out sample board and some little just a little packet of Scratchboard. So it's first come, first serve while supplies last. So try to join us, it'll be a good time.